Welcome back, MVP. Streebo here with you again, and this time I'm going to do kind of a free-form video log on the subject of why is horror not scary? Horror meaning current, modern, mainstream horror. So that's a big question, and there are a lot of different ways we can answer it. Now, I just want to say I've always kind of defended modern horror in a lot of ways because I can always find something that freaks me out. Something will come along every now and then. Like last year, I thought Paranormal Activity really freaked me out. I saw it the weekend of its release, not when it was in a very limited release. It was like maybe a 10-15 city release across the country. And it wasn't until those showings were all sold out that they gave it a wider release, and everybody's saying, "Oh, you need to go see this because it's scary and freaky and all this stuff." And when I saw it, it freaked me out. You can still watch my video review of it right here. It's why I go see these movies in the theater, during their initial runs. So my judgment, I don't go in with any kind of preconceived notions. I go in to enjoy it with the crowd, with that kind of reaction, with that total immersive experience of being in the theater on the big screen with the surround sound in the dark, where you're totally taken to another place. And Paranormal Activity worked for me. So when people say, why is modern horror not scary? I don't always agree with that. There are still some things out there. Some other things, like I've heard people say Martyrs was very scary. I'm ashamed to admit I have the DVD, but I have not watched it yet. I don't know why. I'm rarely in the mood to watch horror when I'm at home. I like to go out and see it at the theater. Over the past year or so, while I've been working on Ghost, working on our own production, I'm trying not to burn myself out on horror unless it's Halloween. That was really the only time that I watched scary movies all the time. Otherwise, I'll just go see what's in the theater, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the theater going experience. To me, that's the real litmus test of any kind of movie, is how it plays in the theater and how I react to it, what kind of emotional responses I have to it there. So Martyrs obviously was not given a theatrical release here in the States, and we have to watch it on DVD. I have the DVD. I haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot of people say it's really crazy. People are talking about Human Centipede right now. Again, another movie I haven't seen. It wasn't given a theatrical release, and people are saying it's pretty freaky. So I want to check these things out at some time, but I don't know, maybe I need to schedule a day for horror when I just sit down and watch it. But again, I'm trying not to get burned out, because I'm working on Ghost in post-production now and the editing, and I'm trying to make that horrific. So I'm not really in the phase where I'm looking for ideas or anything. Now, if I get lost during editing, I'm going to get off track. But anyway, if I get looking for a specific tone, I might research certain movies. Like, since I'm working on a movie called Ghost right now, I might watch supernatural movies like The Haunting or something like that, or The Entity or Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist, anything along those lines. But I'm really digressing here. I think the short answer to why horror is not scary anymore is because we're not 12 years old anymore. Because when you're 12, everything you see is new and exciting, and you've never seen it before, and it really resonates with you. It really imprints on you. That's why those of us that grew up in the 80s are still so fixated with slasher films. That was the 80s were the era of slashers. So nowadays, any kind of crappy slasher can come along, and anyone of my generation, I guess Generation X, will immediately gravitate towards these slasher films, because we grew up on a steady diet of those movies, all the way from Halloween through Friday 13th to all the knockoffs of everything in between. And then the movie that brought slashers back and changed the genre and revitalized the genre and the specific subgenre of slashers, which was Nightmare on Elm Street, which ironically was given a remake treatment this year, and you can see my review for it here on YouTube if you like. Pop down to my videos above me, just scan over. I've got a 2-part review there that I did for it, and I was pretty disappointed with it. There were elements that I liked, but it just maybe my expectations were too high. I really tried to keep them low. But anyway, we're not 12 years old anymore, and I'm not trying to be a smartass when I say that. I do have a reason behind it, because everything is new and different, and uncanny is the operative word I'm looking for. I picked that up from a book called the Horror Film Reader, which is a collection of essays on horror films and our response to it and that kind of thing. And one of the essays specifically talked about how horror has to be uncanny. Okay, in my example I gave earlier talking about the slasher films, I mentioned Halloween and Friday the 13th. Those are, you know, kind of similar films, but they kind of change things up a little bit. Okay, Halloween was more suspenseful, less on the gore. Okay, Friday the 13th came in and changed it up in the context of its times by adding more gore to it, and at the time that made that scary. People will go back now and watch it and they might say, oh well, this isn't scary, but there are still some suspenseful moments in Friday the 13th, but not as many suspenseful moments as can be found in John Carpenter's Halloween. But where things become uncanny and are changed up and become new and unusual to us again was with the emergence of Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street in the 80s, because here you have Freddy Krueger, who's not just a standard slasher guy in a mask running around with a knife or you know, a garden hoe or something, or a killer drill on a guitar. You know, here's a creature, this mangled guy that's lurking in our dreams, and he's all disfigured, and that changed things up. It made that uncanny. That's where the Nightmare on Elm Street remake failed, because it did not accomplish the goal of making Freddy Krueger uncanny again. Instead, it just brought us Freddy Krueger, new 2010 Freddy Krueger, packaged for you, just like this in a package, giving you the familiar Freddy Krueger. So familiar, in fact, that they, you know, restaged several key kill sequences from Wes Craven's original movie. Okay, so familiar, in fact, that Freddy looks pretty much exactly like Freddy. He's got the trademarked fedora, the red and green sweater, the knives on his hands, except everything has gone up to the extreme level where his knives are bigger, his fedora is bigger, his makeup is more realistic, supposedly gorier, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it does not make Freddy uncanny again, in that he becomes something unusual and outside of our realm of influence, to where it becomes new and frightening to us again. That is why, in my opinion anyway, that horror is not scary anymore. Right? So many horror films are not scary. Another element is you have to have the characters to carry us through these movies. If we don't have main characters, main protagonists that we care about, that we sympathize with, that we empathize with. Okay, my tongue's just getting tied up here. It's my third video I've shot tonight, so bear with me. If you don't have those characters to carry us along, if you cannot stand those characters, you don't want to spend time with them, you're not really going to be emotionally vested in the movie to the point where you're affected when they are in danger. Okay, some movies do accomplish that. Like, for example, Hostel, I thought worked in that you had the nice guy character. When he gets caught and bad things happen to him, you feel for him, okay? And, you know, that's the example I'm going to go with. I'm going to end up running out of time here, so I'm going to try to move things along here. So, you know, horror it's an old genre. Here we go. We've got, on my horror connoisseur's guide, we've got a picture of classical image of Medusa's head. That's a horrific image, you know. It's been around for a long time, so things can only be horrific if they seem new and strange and uncanny and frightening to us again. Once we become familiar with the images, they lose their power to frighten us. The saying that is completely my own that I like to say is, once Samara crawls out of the well, she can never go back. And that's a reference to the remake of The Ring, because that was another movie that I thought really freaked me out. Well, not that I thought it freaked me out when I saw it in the theater. But then the sequel, you know what's behind everything, so it's not uncanny, it's not frightening to us anymore. It's too familiar. So, you know, it didn't work. Samara was already out of the well. We couldn't put her back and change things up and make it different. So I'm running out of time. I'm going to sign off. So that's my attempt to discuss why modern horror is not scary anymore, and why we as filmmakers need to make an effort to make things uncanny again so we can frighten people.